You spent our savings on what? I gasped, feeling the room spin around me. Gareth, how could you? My husband's face paled as he glanced nervously between me and his parents. The dining room suddenly felt suffocating, the fancy china and crystal glasses mocking me with their extravagance. Now, Stacy, Eula, my mother-in-law, interjected with a saccharine smile. I'm sure Gareth was just thinking of family. Isn't that right, dear? I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white. My name is Stacy, and I just discovered my husband betrayed me in the worst way possible. It's an investment, Gareth mumbled, avoiding my gaze. Mom and Dad needed a place closer to us, and this condo was perfect. I thought you'd understand. Understand, I hissed, struggling to keep my voice low. You used our entire savings without even talking to me. How is that an investment? Henry, my father-in-law, cleared his throat. Now let's not make a scene. We're all family here. I laughed bitterly. Family? Is that what you call this? Eula's eyes narrowed. I don't appreciate your tone, young lady. After all we've done for you. Done for me. I cut her off, my voice rising. You've done nothing but undermine me since the day I married your son. Gareth reached for my hand, but I jerked away. Honey, please. Can we discuss this later? No, we can't. I snapped. I want to know exactly how much of our money you spent on this. This condo. The silence that followed was deafening. Gareth squirmed in a seat, while Eula's smug expression spoke volumes. All of it, Gareth finally whispered. The down payment, it took all of our savings. The room tilted dangerously. I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need some air. As I stormed out onto the balcony, I heard Eula's voice drift after me. Really, Gareth, I don't know why you put up with such dramatics. I gripped the railing, gulping in the cool night air. How had it come to this? When had I become such a stranger in my own marriage? The sliding door opened behind me, and Gareth's hesitant footsteps approached. Stacy, I'm sorry. I should have told you. I whirled around, fury blazing in my chest. Told me? You should have discussed it with me. We're supposed to be partners, Gareth. How could you make such a huge decision without me? He ran a hand through his hair, looking lost. They're my parents, Stacy. They needed help. And what about us? I demanded. What about our future? Our son's future? Gareth's eyes widened. Caleb, he's fine. This doesn't affect him. I laughed incredulously. Doesn't affect him? That money was for his college fund. Gareth, for our retirement. For emergencies. We can save again, he said weakly. It's not like we're poor. That's not the point. I exploded. You betrayed my trust. You put your parents before your own family. The sliding door opened again, and Eula's perfectly coiffed hat poked out. Everything all right out here? Dessert's getting cold. I bit back a scathing retort, forcing a smile. We'll be right in, Eula. As soon as she disappeared, I turned back to Gareth. This isn't over. We need to have a serious talk about our future. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Of course. We'll figure it out, I promise. But as we rejoined his parents at the table, the sickening realization hit me. This wasn't just about money. It was about loyalty, respect, and the very foundation of our marriage. Eula beamed as she served us each a slice of her famous apple pie. Now, isn't this lovely? All of us together, like one big, happy family. I stabbed my fork into the pie, imagining it was something else entirely. Just wonderful, I muttered. As the conversation drifted to a named topic, I found myself withdrawing, observing the dynamics around me with new eyes. Gareth, eager to please his parents. Eula, subtly controlling every aspect of the evening. Henry, passively going along with whatever his wife decreed. And me? I was the outsider, the interloper in this tightly knit family unit. But as I watched Eula manipulate the conversation, steering it towards her latest social triumph, a spark of defiance ignited within me. I wouldn't be pushed aside so easily. I wouldn't let them steamroll over my life, my marriage, my future. So, Stacy, Eula's voice cut through my thoughts. How is little Caleb doing in school? Still struggling with reading, is he? I gritted my teeth, recognizing the subtle jab. Actually, he's made great progress. His teacher says he's one of the top readers in his class now. Eula's smile tightened. Oh, well, I'm sure Gareth's genes are finally kicking in. The Whitmans have always been exceptionally bright. I felt my blood begin to boil. But before I could retort, Gareth jumped in. Mom, did I tell you about the new project I'm working on at the firm? As Eula's attention shifted, lavishing praise on her darling boy, I sat back and observed. The pieces were falling into place, revealing a pattern I'd been blind to for far too long. This wasn't just about money or a condo. It was about control, about keeping Gareth firmly under their influence, even at the expense of his own family. Well, I thought, taking a sip of wine to hide my growing resolve. Two can play at that game. As the evening wore on, I smiled and nodded in all the right places. But inside, my mind was racing, formulating a plan. I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't let them destroy everything I'd worked so hard to build. This betrayal was just the beginning. But I would make damn sure it was also the end. The moving truck rumbled away, leaving me standing in the shadow of the luxury condo that had swallowed our savings. Caleb tugged at my hand, his eyes wide with excitement. "Mommy, look at the big fountain," he exclaimed, pointing to the ornate water feature in the courtyard. I forced a smile. "It's nice, sweetie. Let's go see our new home." As we entered the lobby, Eula's shrill voice echoed off the marble floors. "There you are. We were beginning to think you'd gotten lost." She swept forward, enveloping Caleb in a suffocating hug. "Come to Grandma, my precious boy. I've got your room all set up. It's fit for a little prince." I bristled at her words. We'd agreed Caleb would share a room with us, at least initially. But before I could object, Gareth appeared, laden with boxes. "Mom, maybe we should let Stacy and Caleb settle in first," he suggested weakly. Eula waved him off. "Nonsense. Family helps family. Now, Stacy dear, I've taken the liberty of unpacking some of your things. I hope you don't mind, but that horrid floral vase simply wouldn't do in the living room." My jaw clenched. That vase was a wedding gift from my late grandmother. "Actually, Eula, I'd prefer to unpack my own belongings." Her eyes narrowed for a split second before her saccharine smile returned. "Of course, dear. I was only trying to help. You must be exhausted after all that packing." The way she said it made it sound like I'd been digging ditches instead of organizing our life into boxes. I bit back a retort, reminding myself that this was temporary. We just needed to save enough to move out. As the days passed, that goal seemed increasingly distant. Eula's presence was suffocating, her subtle digs constant. She rearranged the kitchen without asking, skiing at my chaotic organization. She scheduled play dates for Caleb without consulting me, always with the children of her country club friends. "Caleb needs to socialize with the right sort," she'd say, her tone implying I was somehow deficient in providing that. Even bath time wasn't sacred. One evening, as I was running Caleb's bath, Eula barged in. "Oh, good. You're giving him a bath," she said, as if surprised I knew how to care for my own child. "I'll take over from here. You look tired, dear. Why don't you go relax?" I gripped the edge of the tub. "I've got this, Eula. Caleb and I have our own bath time routine." She laughed, a tinkling sound that set my teeth on edge. "Don't be silly. I raised Gareth, you know. I think I can handle bathing my grandson." "Mom," Gareth's voice came from the hallway. "Let Stacy handle it. Come help me with dinner." Eula's lips thinned, but she retreated. As she left, I caught her muttering, "I don't know why he puts up with such stubbornness." That night, after Caleb was asleep, I confronted Gareth. "This isn't working," I hissed. "Your mother is constantly undermining me." Gareth sighed, running a hand through his hair. "She's just trying to help Stacy. Can't you try to get along?" "Get along." I struggled to keep my voice down. "She criticizes everything I do. She's taking over Caleb's life. And you just stand by and let it happen. What do you want me to do?" He snapped. "They're my parents. We're living in their home. A home bought with our money." I reminded him bitterly. The argument ended as it always did, with Gareth retreating to his study and me lying awake, seething. The final straw came a week later. I returned from grocery shopping to find Eula in the kitchen, a smug smile on her face. "Oh, good, you're back," she said. "I was just telling Caleb about our summer plans." I froze. "What summer plans?" "Why, our annual family vacation to Martha's Vineyard." "Of course," she replied, as if it were obvious. "I've already booked the tickets." Gareth agreed it would be wonderful for Caleb to experience it. The room spun. Our family vacation, the one we'd been planning for months, the one I'd been promising Caleb, was to the Grand Canyon. It was supposed to be just the three of us. "We can't afford a trip to Martha's Vineyard," I said through gritted teeth. Eula waved her hand dismissively. "Don't worry about that, dear. We'll cover it. After all, what's family for?" In that moment, something inside me snapped. I saw with crystal clarity the web Eula had woven, trapping us in a life dictated by her whims. "No," I said, my voice steady. "We won't be going to Martha's Vineyard. Caleb, Gareth, and I will be sticking to our original plans." Eula's eyes flashed. "Now see here, young lady." "No, you see here." I cut her off. "This ends now. I am Caleb's mother. Gareth is my husband. We are a family, and we will make our own decisions." As Eula sputtered in indignation, I turned to leave the kitchen. At the doorway, I paused. Oh, and Ula? I'll be putting my grandmother's vase back in the living room. I think it'll look lovely there, don't you? I walked away, my heart pounding, but my resolve firm. This was far from over. But for the first time since moving in, I felt a glimmer of hope. I would reclaim my family, my life, no matter what it took. The cafe bustled with a lunchtime crowd, but I barely noticed the noise. My hands trembled as I dialed Ula's number, praying she'd pick up. Stacy. Ula's voice crackled through the speaker. Is everything okay? I choked back a sob. Ula, I need help. I can't do this anymore. I'm on my way, she said, without hesitation. Where are you? 20 minutes later, Lana slid into the booth across from me. Her face etched with concern. I spilled everything. The condo, Ula's manipulation, Gareth's betrayal. Lana listened, her expression darkening with each revelation. Oh, Stacy, she breathed when I finished. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I shrugged helplessly. I thought I could handle it. That things would get better. Lana reached across the table, squeezing my hand. Well, that ends now. We're getting you out of there. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. But how? I don't have any money, and Caleb will figure it out. Lana assured me. First things first, we need to document everything. Every snide comment, every manipulation. Build a case. I nodded. Determination replacing despair. I can do that. Over the next few weeks, I became a silent observer in my own home. I started a journal, meticulously recording Ula's behavior. The way she accidentally shrank my favorite sweater in the wash. How she scheduled doctor's appointments for Caleb without consulting me. The constant barrage of criticism thinly veiled as concern. Really, Stacy? She'd say, I'm my outfit. Don't you think you should dress more appropriately for a mother? I'd smile tightly, jotting down the exchange later. Each entry fueled my resolve. Gareth remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully ignorant. When I tried to discuss Ula's behavior, he'd brush it off. You're being too sensitive, he'd say. Mom's just trying to help. I stopped trying to make him understand. Instead, I focused on Caleb, shielding him as best I could from the toxic atmosphere. One afternoon, as I was helping Caleb with his homework, Ula swooped in. Oh, let me handle this, she could. Caleb needs a proper education, not just coloring books. I bit back a retort, remembering Lana's advice. Document, don't engage. Later that night, I snuck into the study, using Gareth's computer to research custody laws and financial advice. As I was about to log off, a notification popped up, an email from Ula to Gareth. My finger hovered over the mouse. It was wrong to snoop, but I clicked. Darling, the email read, I'm concerned about Stacy's influence on Caleb. Perhaps we should consider more permanent arrangements for his care. After all, blood is thicker than water. My blood ran cold. They were plotting to take my son. The next day, I met Lana at our usual cafe, my nerves frayed. They want to take Caleb. I whispered, showing her the email I'd forwarded to myself. Lana's eyes widened. This is serious, Stacy. We need to act fast. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. My cousin Evan, remember him? He owns a small business. He's always looking for help. It's not much, but it could be a start. I hesitated. I don't know, Lana. I haven't worked in years. And what about Caleb? One step at a time, she said firmly. First, we get you some financial independence. Then we tackle the rest. That evening, I returned home with a plan forming. As I entered, I heard Eula's voice from the kitchen. I just don't understand why she can't be more grateful, she was saying. After all we've done for her, I paused listening. Now, dear. Henry's placating tone replied. Stacy's trying her best. Her best. Eula scoffed. She's barely fit to raise a child. It's a good thing we're here to guide Caleb properly. My hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, to confront them. But I held back, remembering my goal. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about securing a future for Caleb, free from their toxic influence. I retreated to my room, pulling out my journal. As I documented the overheard conversation, a sense of calm settled over me. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had a clear path forward. The next morning I called Evan. I'd love to hear more about that job opportunity, I said, my voice steady. As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. I thought of Caleb, of the life I wanted for us, of the example I wanted to set for my son. No more silent suffering, no more letting Eula dictate our lives. It was time to take control. I picked up my journal, flipping through the pages of documented abuse and manipulation. Soon, very soon, I'd have enough to make my stand. And when I did, Eula, Gareth, and anyone else who tried to come between me and my son would learn just how formidable I could be. The silent rebellion had begun. And I was ready for war. The bell above the door chimed as I stepped into Evan's small bookstore. The scent of old paper and coffee wrapping around me, like a comforting blanket. Lana waved from behind the counter, her smile warm and encouraging. "Stacy, you made it," she said, coming around to give me a quick hug. "Evan's in the back. Let me grab him." I nodded, my stomach churning with a mixture of nervousness and hope. This meeting could be the first step towards my independence, away from Eula's suffocating control and Gareth's betrayal. Moments later, a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile emerged from the back room. "You must be Stacy," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Evan. Lana's told me a lot about you." As we sat down to talk, I found myself relaxing. Evan listened intently as I explained my situation, his expression a mix of sympathy and determination. "Well," he said when I finished, "I could certainly use some help around here. It's not much, but it's a start. When can you begin?" The relief that washed over me was almost overwhelming. "Really? I can start whenever you need me." We worked out a schedule that would allow me to work while Caleb was at school, without raising suspicion from Eula or Gareth. As I left the store, clutching my new employee handbook, I felt a spark of hope ignite in my chest. That evening, as I helped Caleb with his homework, Eula swept into the room. "Caleb, darling," she cooed. "Why don't you let Grandma help you? I'm sure Mommy has other things to do." I gritted my teeth, ready to argue. When an idea struck me, "Actually, Eula," I said sweetly, "I'd love your help. I have some errands to run tomorrow morning. Would you mind watching Caleb until it's time for school?" Eula's eyes narrowed suspiciously, but she couldn't very well refuse. "Of course, dear. Happy to help." The next morning, I left the condo with a spring in my step, my work clothes hidden under a loose sweater. The thrill of my secret rebellion carried me through my first day at the bookstore. As the weeks passed, I found myself blossoming under Evan's patient guidance. The quiet confidence I gained at work began to seep into other areas of my life. I started challenging Eula's passive-aggressive comments, much to her barely concealed fury. One evening, as I was shelving books, Evan approached me with a concerned look. "Stacy, can we talk for a moment?" My heart raced as I followed him to the office. Had I done something wrong? Was he going to let me go? Evan closed the door and turned to face me. "Stacy, I hope you know that you can trust me. I've noticed some things. The way you flinch when your phone rings. How you're always checking the time, worried about being late. If you're in trouble, I want to help." I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Evan said gently, "but I want you to know that you have options. There are resources, people who can help. You and Caleb, you deserve to be safe and happy." His words broke something open inside me. Before I knew it, I was sobbing, spilling out the whole ugly truth about my life with Gareth and Eula. Evan listened without judgment, offering quiet support. When I finished, he handed me a tissue and a business card. "This is a friend of mine," he explained. "She's a lawyer who specializes in family law. I think you should talk to her." I stared at the card, hope and fear warring inside me. "I don't know if I can afford." "Don't worry about that," Evan cut me off. "She owes me a favor. Just think about it, okay?" That night, as I lay in bed next to a snoring Gareth, I turned the lawyer's card over and over in my hands. The thought of leaving was terrifying, but the idea of staying, of subjecting Caleb to this toxic environment for years to come was even worse. My resolve strengthened as I remembered Evan's words. I deserved to be safe and happy. More importantly, Caleb deserved a mother who was strong enough to protect him. The next morning, I woke early, my decision made. I dialed the number on the card with shaking fingers. "Hello," I said when a woman answered. "My name is Stacy Whitman. I need your help." As I hung up, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different, stronger, more determined. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of real hope. Eula's voice floated up from the kitchen, sharp with displeasure. "Stacy, where are you? Caleb needs his breakfast." I took a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. Let her shout, let her scheme. I had allies now and a plan. The days of cowering in fear were over. "Coming, Eula," I called back, my voice steady and clear. As I descended the stairs, I felt the weight of my secret knowledge buoying me up. Soon, very soon, I would be free. And neither Eula nor Gareth would see it coming. The tension in the condo was palpable as I walked through the door, my arms laden with groceries. Eula's shrill voice carried from the living room where she was engaged in a heated phone conversation. "I don't care what it takes," she hissed. "That girl needs to be put in her place. I froze, my heart pounding. There was no doubt who that girl was. As I rounded the corner, Eula's eyes locked onto mine. Her face morphed into a saccharine smile, but the malice in her gaze was unmistakable. "Oh, Stacy dear," she cooed, ending her call. "Let me help you with those bags. You look so tired." I squared my shoulders, meeting her gaze. "I'm fine, Eula. I can manage." Her eyes narrowed at my defiance. "Well, if you insist. Though I do worry about your ability to handle everything. Caleb needs a stable environment, after all." The implied threat hung in the air between us. I bit back a retort, reminding myself of the lawyer's advice. Document everything, but don't engage unnecessarily. Later that evening, as I was tucking Caleb into bed, Gareth appeared in the doorway. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice low and strained. I nodded, pressing a kiss to Caleb's forehead before following Gareth to our bedroom. "What's going on with you lately?" he demanded as soon as the door closed. "Mom says you've been acting strange, disappearing for hours." I felt a flare of anger. "Oh, your mother says? And what do you think, Gareth? Have you bothered to ask me how I'm doing?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "I'm asking now, Stacy. What's going on?" For a moment, I considered telling him everything. The job at the bookstore, the meetings with the lawyer, my plans to leave. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw only confusion and irritation. No understanding, no remorse for how he'd betrayed me. "Nothing's going on," I said, finally. "I'm just trying to be a good mother to our son." Gareth's face softened slightly. "I know things have been tough with the move and all, but Mom and Dad are just trying to help. Can't you try to get along with them?" I laughed bitterly. "Get along? Gareth, your mother is actively trying to undermine me at every turn. And you just stand by and let it happen." His expression hardened. "That's not fair, Stacy. They're my parents. I can't just what?" I interrupted. "Stand up for your wife. Protect your son from their manipulation." Gareth's face flushed with anger. "You're being ridiculous. Mom and Dad love Caleb. They want what's best for him." "What's best for him?" I echoed incredulously. "Like when your mother tried to enroll him in that elite preschool without consulting me. Or when she tells him that Mommy is confused." Whenever I disagree with her, Gareth's jaw clenched. "You're blowing things out of proportion. Mom is just trying to give Caleb opportunities." I shook my head, a wave of sadness washing over me. This man, who I'd once loved so deeply, was now a stranger to me. "You know what, Gareth? You're right. I am tired. Tired of fighting for a place in my own family. Tired of being treated like an outsider in my own home." His eyes widened, a flicker of fear crossing his face. "What are you saying?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I'm saying that something needs to change. Either you start standing up to your parents and supporting me, or—" I let the unfinished threat hang in the air between us. Gareth's face paled. "Or what?" he whispered, before I could respond. A knock at the door interrupted us. Eula's voice floated through, sickly sweet. "Is everything all right in there?" I heard raised voices. Gareth shot me a pleading look before opening the door. "Everything's fine, Mom. Stacy and I were just talking." Eula's eyes darted between us. Her lips curved in a triumphant smile. "Well, if you're sure. I was just about to make some tea. Would you like to join me, Gareth? We can discuss that business proposal your father mentioned." I watched, as Gareth hesitated, torn between staying to finish our conversation and following his mother. In the end, habit won out. "Sure, Mom," he said, avoiding my gaze. "I'll be right down." As they left, I sank onto the bed. A mix of anger and determination coursing through me. This confrontation had made one thing crystal clear. I couldn't count on Gareth to change. If I wanted a better life for myself and Caleb, I would have to make it happen on my own. I pulled out my phone, sending a quick text to Lana. "It's time. Can you help me get everything ready?" Her response came almost immediately. "Absolutely. We're here for you, Stacy. Whatever you need." I took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of calm settle over me. The storm was gathering, but for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it head on. Eula and Gareth had no idea what was coming, but they were about to learn that I was no longer the meek, compliant woman they thought they could control. The time for silent rebellion was over. Now it was time for action. The Whitman family's annual garden party was in full swing. The manicured lawn dotted with elegantly dressed guests, sipping champagne. I stood at the edge of the crowd, my heart pounding as I clutched the folder containing months of meticulously gathered evidence. Eula's voice carried across the garden, her laugh tinkling like broken glass. "Oh, Stacy dear, do come and join us. We were just discussing Caleb's future." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. This was it, the moment I'd been preparing for. As I approached the group, I caught sight of Gareth, his face tight with tension. He'd been on edge ever since our argument, clearly sensing the shift in our relationship but unable or unwilling to address it. "What about Caleb's future?" I asked, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Eula's smile was razor sharp. "Well, we were just telling the Hendersons about that wonderful private school we're considering, the one with the accelerated program." I felt a flash of anger. We'd never discussed any private school. "Oh, and when was this decision made?" Henry cleared his throat uncomfortably, but Eula pressed on. "Now, Stacy, don't be difficult. We're only thinking of what's best for Caleb." "What's best for Caleb?" I echoed, my voice rising, "like when you tried to enroll him in that elite preschool without consulting me, or when you tell him that mommy is confused whenever I disagree with you." A hush fell over the gathering. Eula's face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "I don't know what you're talking about. Gareth, control your wife." But Gareth stood frozen, his eyes darting between me and his mother. I turned to address the stunned guests. "I'm sorry to disrupt your lovely party, but I can't stay silent any longer. For months, I've endured manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional abuse at the hands of my in-laws, while my husband stood by and did nothing." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Eula's face contorted with fury. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you." "Everything you've done?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean like using our entire savings to buy this condo without my knowledge or consent?" Gasp echoed around us. I opened the folder, pulling out bank statements and emails. "I have proof of every manipulation, every lie, how you've systematically tried to undermine my relationship with my son, how you've belittled and excluded me at every turn." Gareth finally found his voice. "Stacy, please, this isn't the time or place." "When is the time, Gareth?" I demanded, rounding on him. "When were you planning to stand up for me? For our family?" His face crumpled. I didn't know it was this bad. I thought if we just tried harder." "Tried harder," Eula screeched. "We've bent over backwards to accommodate this ungrateful." "That's enough, Eula." Henry's voice cut through the chaos. For the first time, I saw a flicker of shame in his eyes. We may have overstepped." Eula whirled on him. "Don't you dare side with her. She's trying to turn our son against us." "No, Mom," Gareth said quietly. "Stacy's right. I've let this go too far." The realization that he was finally standing up to his mother should have been satisfying. But it was too little, too late. I turned back to the gathered guests, many of whom looked deeply uncomfortable. "I'm sorry you all had to witness this. But I couldn't let the facade continue. The Whitmans aren't the perfect family they pretend to be. They're manipulative, controlling, and willing to destroy their own son's marriage to maintain their illusion of power." Eula lunged forward, her carefully manicured nails clawing at the folder in my hands. "Give me those." "You have no right." "I have every right," I said firmly, stepping back. "These are copies anyway. The originals are safe with my lawyer." The word lawyer seemed to echo across the lawn. Eula's face drained of color as she realized the implications. One by one, guests began to make their excuses and leave. The Hendersons, Eula's closest friends, couldn't meet her eyes as they hurried past. The carefully cultivated social standing she'd prized so highly was crumbling before her eyes. As the last guests departed, leaving only our fractured family on the lawn, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. "Stacy," Gareth pleaded, reaching for my hand. "We can fix this. We can go to counseling, make a fresh start." I gently pulled away. "No, Gareth. It's too late for that. I've already filed for divorce." His face crumpled. But what about Caleb?" "I'm fighting for full custody," I said firmly. "You're welcome to visit, but I won't subject our son to this toxic environment any longer." Eula, who had been uncharacteristically silent, suddenly found her voice. "You can't do this. We'll fight you every step of the way." I met her gaze steadily. "Go ahead. But remember, I have evidence of every cruel word, every manipulation." "Do you really want all of that aired in court?" For the first time, I saw fear in Eula's eyes. The realization that her carefully constructed world was falling apart seemed to age her instantly. As I turned to leave, Gareth called out one last time. "Stacy, please. I love you." I paused, looking back at the man I'd once built my life around. "I loved you too, Gareth. But sometimes, love isn't enough." With that, I walked away from the Whitman family. My head held high. The confrontation I dreaded for so long was over. And though the road ahead would be challenging, I felt lighter than I had in years. The storm had broken, and in its wake, I could finally see the promise of clear skies ahead. The pre-dawn light filtered through the curtains as I zipped up the last suitcase. My heart raced, a mixture of fear and exhilaration coursing through my veins. Today was the day. The day I'd reclaim my life and my son's future. A soft knock at the door made me jump. Stacy. Lana's whisper came through. It's time. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Coming, I whispered back. Caleb stirred in his bed as I approached. Mommy, he mumbled, rubbing his eyes. Hey, sweetie, I said softly, kneeling beside him. Remember our special adventure I told you about? It's time to go. His eyes widened with excitement, thankfully still too young to fully grasp the gravity of the situation. As I helped him dress, I sent up a silent prayer of thanks for his resilience. Lana and Evan were waiting in the hallway. Their faces a mix of determination and concern. Everything's ready, Evan whispered, taking one of the suitcases. The car's out back. We moved silently through the condo, each creak of the floorboards sending a jolt of panic through me. As we passed Gareth and Eula's rooms, I held my breath, half expecting Eula to burst out and catch us. But the doors remained closed, and soon we were stepping out into the cool morning air. Freedom was so close I could taste it. As Evan loaded the car, a voice behind us made my blood run cold. Going somewhere, I whirled around to find Gareth standing in the doorway. His face a mask of hurt and confusion. Daddy, Caleb exclaimed, oblivious to the tension. Gareth's eyes darted between us and the packed car. Stacy, what's going on? Where are you taking our son? I stepped forward, placing myself between Gareth and Caleb. We're leaving, Gareth. I told you at the party. I can't do this anymore. His face crumpled. But I thought we could work it out. I've been trying, Stacy. I told Mom to back off. It's too late. I cut him off, my voice firm despite the tremor in my hands. You had years to stand up to your parents, to be a partner to me. I can't wait any longer. You can't just take my son. Gareth's voice rose, panic edging into his tone. Mommy, Caleb's small voice came from behind me, tinged with fear. I turned, kneeling to meet his eyes. It's okay, sweetie. Daddy and I are just talking. Why don't you go with Aunt Lana to the car? Lana stepped forward, gently guiding Caleb away. As they walked to the car, I faced Gareth again. I'm not taking him away from you, Gareth. You can still be a part of his life. But I won't subject him to your mother's manipulation anymore. Gareth's eyes filled with tears. Please, Stacy, we can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes. For a moment, I felt my resolve waver. This man, for all his faults, was still the father of my child. The man I'd once loved enough to marry. But then I remembered all the nights I'd cried myself to sleep, all the times I'd felt small and insignificant in my own home. I'm sorry, Gareth, I said softly. But sometimes, sorry isn't enough. A commotion from inside the house caught our attention. Eula's shrill voice carried through the open door. Gareth, what's going on out there? Panic flared in my chest. If Eula got involved, things could quickly spiral out of control. Go, Gareth said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. Before she comes out, I stared at him, shocked. What? His eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of resignation and regret. You're right, I should have stood up to them years ago. I don't want Caleb growing up like I did. Tears pricked at my eyes. Thank you, I breathed. Gareth, Eula's voice was closer now. Go, he repeated more urgently. I'll handle, Mom. I nodded, turning to run to the car. As I slid into the back seat next to Caleb, I saw Gareth step back into the house, closing the door behind him. Drive, I told Evan, my voice shaky. As we pulled away from the condo, I watched in the rear-view mirror as Eula burst out onto the front step, her face contorted with fury. But we were already turning the corner, leaving behind the prison that had been my home for too long. Caleb snuggled into my side, already drifting back to sleep. I wrapped my arm around him, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. You okay? Lana asked softly from the front seat. I took a deep breath, looking out at the brightening sky. For the first time in years, I felt a genuine smile spread across my face. Yeah, I said, I think I am. As we drove towards our new life, I felt a mix of emotions, fear of the unknown, sadness for what might have been, but most of all, an overwhelming sense of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. The sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of pink and gold. It was a new day in more ways than one, and I was ready to embrace it with all its challenges and possibilities. Caleb stirred beside me. Mommy, where are we going? I hugged him close, my heart full of love and determination. We're going on an adventure, sweetie, just you and me. As we drove into the sunrise, I felt the last chains of my old life fall away. We were free, and the future was ours to shape. The autumn breeze rustled through the leaves as I watched Caleb chase a soccer ball across the park. His laughter, carefree and unburdened, was music to my ears. It had been 6 months since we'd left the suffocating confines of the Whitman household, and the change in both of us was palpable. "He's really thriving, isn't he?" Evan's voice came from beside me, warm and supportive as always. I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. "It's like he's a different child, no more walking on eggshells, no more tension in the air." Evan's hand found mine, giving it a gentle squeeze. The gesture, once unthinkable in my old life, now felt natural and comforting. Our relationship had blossomed slowly, built on mutual respect and understanding. As we watched Caleb play, my mind drifted to the events of the past few months. The divorce proceedings had been surprisingly smooth, thanks in large part to the mountain of evidence I'd gathered. Gareth, perhaps finally realizing the extent of his parents' manipulation, had agreed to my terms without much fight. Eula, on the other hand, had not gone quietly. Her attempts to paint me as an unfit mother had backfired spectacularly when my lawyer presented the documented evidence of her behavior. The look on her face as her carefully constructed facade crumbled in the courtroom was something I'd never forget. "Penny for your thoughts?" Evan asked, pulling me from my reverie. I shook my head, smiling, just reflecting on how much has changed. A year ago, I couldn't have imagined this life. "You should be proud of yourself, Stacy," he said softly. "What you've accomplished, the strength you've shown, it's incredible." His words warmed me, a far cry from the constant criticism I'd endured for so long. My job at the bookstore had blossomed into a management position, and for the first time in years, I felt valued and respected in my work. "Mommy, watch this." Caleb's excited shot drew our attention. We watched as he executed a wobbly cartwheel, his face beaming with pride. "That's amazing, sweetie," I called back, my heart swelling with love. As Caleb returned to his game, I noticed a familiar figure approaching from across the park. Gareth, looking somewhat diminished without Eula's overbearing presence, walked towards us hesitantly. "Hi," he said, his voice uncertain. "I hope it's okay that I came. I wanted to see Caleb." I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. "Of course, he's been looking forward to your visit." Gareth's eyes flickered to Evan. A flash of something, regret, jealousy, crossing his face before he schooled his features. "You must be Evan. I've heard good things about you from Caleb." Evan stood, extending his hand. "Nice to meet you, Gareth. I'll give you folks some space. Stacy, I'll be by the coffee cart when you're ready." As Evan walked away, Gareth turned to me. "He seems like a good guy." "He is," I said simply, there was no need to twist the knife. We watched Caleb play in silence for a moment before Gareth spoke again. "I wanted to apologize, Stacy, for everything. I know it's too late, but I see now how blind I was, how I let my parents control everything." I studied his face, seeing the genuine remorse there. "Thank you, Gareth. That means a lot." He nodded, his eyes sad. "I've been seeing a therapist trying to understand why I let things get so bad. It's been eye-opening." "I'm glad," I said softly, "for your sake and for Caleb's." As if on cue, Caleb noticed his father and came running over. "Daddy, did you see my cartwheel?" Gareth's face lit up as he knelt to hug our son. "I sure did, champ. That was awesome." Watching them together, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This wasn't the family I'd imagined when I'd said, "I do," all those years ago, but it was a family nonetheless. One built on honesty, respect, and the hard-won wisdom of experience. As the afternoon wore on, Gareth said his goodbyes, promising Caleb another visit soon. I watched him walk away, feeling a chapter of my life truly close. Evan rejoined us, handing me a steaming cup of coffee. "Everything okay?" I nodded, leaning into his warmth. "Better than okay, actually. I feel free." We gathered our things, Caleb chattering excitedly about his playdate as we headed home. Our home, a modest apartment filled with laughter and love. So different from the cold, oppressive condo we've left behind. That night, after tucking Caleb in, I stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. The woman reflected in the glass was a far cry from the beaten-down, insecure person I'd been a year ago. She stood tall, confident, her eyes bright with hope for the future. I thought of Eula, her social circle shattered, her control over her son slipping away. Of Henry, finally forced to confront his role in enabling his wife's behavior. Of Gareth, struggling to rebuild his life without his parents' suffocating influence. But mostly, I thought of Caleb, growing up in a home filled with love and respect. Of the lessons he'd learn about standing up for himself, about the power of resilience and self-worth. As I turned away from the window, my eyes fell on a framed photo of Caleb and me, laughing at the beach. It was a simple moment, but it captured everything I'd fought for: joy, freedom, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. The journey had been hard. The battles fierce. But standing here now, I knew without a doubt that it had all been worth it. We had our whole lives ahead of us, full of possibilities and free from the shadows of the past. And I was ready to embrace every moment of it,